Social studies education is meant to teach the ideas and skills needed to achieve civic competence and the ability to function as democratic members of our society. As stated by the National Council for Social Studies, the primary purpose of social studies is to help young people make informed and reasoned decisions for the public good as citizens of a culturally diverse, democratic society in an independent world. We want students to be members of society that have the knowledge, intellectual capabilities, and dispositions toward democracy to be active in public life both locally and in the global community. Additionally, social studies is about showing students the impact of history on the world we live in today, and how so many answers to questions can be found in the events of the past. This is in line with the ideas of Larson and Kepler, who state, as teachers, you will help your future students in middle school and high school to examine themes and ideas, and to develop skills that will, in turn, help them make better sense of the world around them. The idea of social studies is essential to giving students the necessary knowledge needed to make informed decisions in our society. It opens them up to thinking about how their world has been shaped by the events of the past, and how they do actually see implications of those events in their everyday lives. Not only that, social studies teaches them the skills they need to interact and empathize with the various peoples of the world. At the end of the day, it is called social studies because it is the study of people and the effect that we've had and continue to have on the world as we know it. We want our students to be able to interact with one another and learn from each other, and learn that in our pluralistic, democratic society, there are so many people with various beliefs, cultures, values, and ideals, but at the end of the day, we are more similar than we know. Everyone deserves to be treated with equality and equity, as reinforced by the National Curriculum Standards for Social Studies, which states diversity among learners embodies the democratic goal of embracing pluralism to make social studies classrooms laboratories of democracy. One area that social studies can be integrated with is the subject of English. Students in English classes and ELA classes tend to focus on reading various forms and pieces of literature, including poems. Students in an English class can read works that were created by African American slaves, who often detailed their harsh conditions of slavery and their intimate feelings about their bondage. For example, specifically, you can do an interdisciplinary lesson where students in a New York classroom would read works that were written by the abolitionist Sojourner Truth. Sojourner Truth was an African American who was born and raised as a slave in Ulster County, New York, who escaped to freedom in the 1820s. She went on to become a famous abolitionist and someone who could actually speak firsthand about the conditions of slavery. This would be a great example of an interdisciplinary lesson where you can combine reading the piece of literature and breaking it down and analyzing it, and also being able to understand the history and of the United States as well as the state of New York. So this specific lesson would help students achieve Standard 1 of the New York Social Studies Standards, which requires students to have knowledge about the history of the United States and the state of New York. Another area where social studies can be mixed with is the area of science. Students could learn about the history of various scientific developments. Specifically, a lesson could be taught about the growth of the scientific method, the scientific process, which came out of a period known as the Scientific Revolution, mainly in the 17th and 18th centuries, as well as the Enlightenment period, where people started to think for themselves a little bit more and move away from what the church and various other religions were saying, and they said, well, maybe we can figure out these things for ourselves if we do some experiments and we make hypotheses. And, this era was really known as the Scientific Revolution and overlapped with the Enlightenment period as well. So this would be a great area where social studies can also be mixed in an interdisciplinary lesson. And this would also help students achieve Standard 2 of the New York Social Studies Standards, which is learning about world history, its major themes, errors, and turning points. So, this is my um, take on why social studies really deserves the attention of high priority in schools. It deserves the necessary funding for resources because it instills in our students um, the ability to function in our democratic society, and they really are the future of our democratic society. Thank you.